There we go. Time for Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. Playing as a... Basically, this is a city building style game with an emphasis on resources and workers. So, this is a game that I've been playing a fair bit on the side. And as you can see, it's nighttime right now, things are pretty dark. I will go and walk through some things about what this game is, generally what you do. So I started out, you have this really big map, and in this map I don't have anything, and I started with nothing, and except for just a bunch of money. You have dollars and rubles, and right here is a border with the Soviet side, and I'm actually just going to turn down the volume a little bit. I don't think this will be... Yeah, there we go. Might as well. It is pretty good music, but anyway. When you start off the game, you have a pretty wide a range of things that you can start looking into. In this case, when you set up in this game in other city builders, you zone out areas, and then people will come in and they'll move in, they'll set up shops and buildings. In this game, you build the buildings, so you have like prefab buildings that you set up, and we can see I set up all these brick buildings. They have 174 productive age workers inside, and these people will move in and they'll walk around, so you can actually see them coming in and out. And if I hover over this, we can see what these people can walk to. So they're able to, in this case, they can walk to things like schools. This is a kindergarten, a hospital. There's things like cinemas and parks, places for them to get athletics done, theater for culture. And you want to bring them, you want your people to do something, work in particular. And so these people will walk to a work site, or in this case they'll walk to a place that they can wait to be delivered. So these guys are waiting here to get picked up. I actually have a little motor wagon. It just picked up about 72 workers. And this is then going to haul them off. You also have slots for passengers and students. So this vehicle will then move along here. They'll drive along. I have a refueling station because this guy will use up fuel. This fuel will go down. And he is going to drive all the way over because there is pollution from industries. So you don't want people living near your polluting buildings. So he'll go along this railroad all the way over to this area where I have a small train platform. And this one will, I'll show it here, it will supply workers to a couple of different job sites. So you can even see the people will walk out. They'll go to this heating plant, they'll go to this coal power plant. And then they'll also go to some of these other job sites as well, like this here where it produces coal. This is a coal mine that will produce coal ore. And that will then, so different buildings, I'll just go over this real quick just to sort of explain the spaghetti going on here. So I have a coal mine here, and there's a rich coal seam in this area that this guy's occupying. And there's a road connection, which is that black icon on here. And there's a pedestrian one, which is the blue one with the two walking people. And then there's this darker blue arrow, and that is an export line for conveyor belts. Because vehicles can drive up and pick up or drop off things from these two parking spots. But then there's a spot where it'll go to a conveyor belt, and I've attached it to a small aggregate storage. This will hold onto the coal ore, and then that will ship it off to this train engine, which splits it into 4 directions. And so these go to these processing plants, and then these processing plants will then, spaghetti it around over to here, which is the large aggregate storage, and that's for the refined coal. And then that will go to a heating plant. This will produce heat, and it will heat water, and this will go to the power plant, which will produce electricity. I generally recommend starting with this. Depending on the difficulty settings, it'll determine whether or not you need to worry about electricity or whether you need to worry about power, or I should say heat and electricity. And education can be made more complex. So in this case, I have winters enabled, so people will freeze and they will die from the cold winters. So you do want to provide heat. So this building will provide me 1,500 meters cubed of water, and that water needs to be at a certain temperature as well. So there's actually a little thing that will tell you like what the temperature of it is, what the temperature of the water tank is. So this will try to have a 90 degrees Celsius water tank, and it'll try to pump that 90 degree water. This one will supply areas nearby, but because he will produce pollution, I actually pipe the water out of a couple of different export nodes along to these pumping stations. These pipes do 300 meter cubed of water flow, so I'm using about 900 meters cubed right now of its water supply. So it's pretty much, I'd have to build a second one if I wanted to expand my hot water supply. But these will then pump the hot water, all along here. It'll go over these, and then I have these like heat exchangers here, and then that supplies it to all of these guys, where we try to keep the houses warm enough, I guess, so they don't freeze. So you can see everybody's at least 24 Celsius, but it is August. It is warm outside. Temperatures will drop, and that's when you need to have this guy manned with lots of people producing lots of heat. So I started off picking the coal as my starting industry, just so that I would have the electricity and the heat. You can import from here. I can import or export. Right now I am exporting 18 megawatts of power, which is what this power line is supplying directly out of this power plant. Then some of the other power lines are going to feed the industries. Some are even going down to here. I do have a sort of hydroelectric power plant here. It doesn't produce pollution, doesn't produce a lot of power, but it produces enough for this town here. I have a school. You can see I have this university that is completely packed. There's like 140 people who are waiting to get in, but there's not enough teachers. I am working on getting my populations trained up to be these higher educated people, so that I can have more professors, teach more people. This will eventually let me do more research so that I can unlock new building types, resources types. I've also got my fields right now producing crops, and that they are being delivered to these grain silos. There is then a train who is dropping the grain. He's set to drop it off here to this silo, which then goes to a food factory and a distillery. So that'll produce it here, food and alcohol. There are some other things you can do which are pretty neat in this game. You can set up distribution offices. This one here is set to load and unload grain from these various fields, and then to unload them into this area here. Because the agro farm will have these. They have 12 vehicles that you can store, but because I didn't want to use up all of these spots on transport vehicles, I've got mostly farm equipment in here, and then I have my transport vehicles in this distribution office. So I've got some mods in here that I'm running. One of the mods in particular that's really good is this one that adds a alternative to the sport arenas. So you have the tennis court and the football field. Normally they only have one staff member each, and that's a problem because you often will sit at 0 staff because somebody has to walk to work. Meanwhile, you have like 70 people waiting to get to have a staff member come, and then by the time he does show up, they've waited long enough, they fail to get their sport entertainment in, and then they get upset. So you can see here I have 5 people who weren't able to participate. When I was running without these modded ones, I'd have like 80 or more people unable to get sports, so people were really upset by that. So that's a very useful mod in particular. I do have some like shopping centers set up around here to provide food. Your people will generally prefer to escape if you don't give them the stuff that they want. So you can see everybody's at really high happiness. So my escapes are at 0 right now. Last month, for the whole year, nobody's escaped. There's been quite a few deaths, though a lot of that can be age or work accidents. So you'd look at like what happens during, the winter time. And so I don't have like a big death spike during the winter, which is good. Last time I played, I didn't prepare very well for the winter, and I had a very big death spike. These immigrants are from when I built these buildings because I have no population at the start of this empty map. So when you go to build a residential complex, it'll say buy citizens automatically. You can choose to randomly move people from existing buildings. So it is a good idea to let some of your buildings fill up naturally with people, and then that'll let you either manually relocate people or automatically relocate them. So I also set up recently a second city over here in Klebruysk, however you want to call it. This one is a city designed to produce steel. I have a coal mine, I have a iron mine up here, and that will go to a power plant, to a heating plant, which will then supply like heat to the town. And then I have the steel mill, which this place doesn't have a lot of workers. I have to expand the housing, I have to get more workers in here, and then that will allow me to produce more steel. That steel currently goes to this train, who then sells it. Let's see, how much have I made off of steel so far? Pretty good. I've basically just done one. Looks like I've done a couple of train loads, but yeah, makes much better money than my other exports right now because I am short on money. So I gotta spend some time, let some of these buildings fill up on people, export some steel. This area is designed to be able to grow and expand. You do want to plan things out and think things through in this game. One coal mine can produce enough to feed like 3 or 4 of these coal processing plants. And these are big, so it takes up a lot of space, so you gotta plan things out really nicely, especially if you want to use these conveyor towers to supply, rather than using like trains or dump vehicles, like trucks, to haul the resources around, because this will transport it pretty much instantly. It just connects the inventories. Right now this is not producing enough because I have not enough workers coming here. So if this was at full workers, it would actually be able to fill up these coal processing plants. But I am trying to balance things out so that I have enough workers in the coal power plant, or else everything shuts down here. And also I want to make sure I got people who can work the heating plant to heat things up. To do that, I actually have this little bus. I think I might have 2 buses right now, but this guy, his whole route is that he will go to this train station. He'll go to the train station and he will actually, you can see him right here, he'll go over there. This is a different one, but this guy, he just went over there, he picked up 7 workers, and now he is going to go to the power plant. He will drop the 7 workers off, and if there's too many people, then he'll have some left over, and I have the 3rd stop set to be this train depot. So he will drop off the rest of the people here, and then they will just wander off and find a job if there's any available, which there are plenty, because there is a coal mine, a very hungry coal mine. So this area can grow. I have room for these. These smaller coal mines, which is a mod, and I did that because there's some small, tiny little coal resources over here. And I figured I could eventually tie it into there if I have a shortage of coal ore, which I might have. Steel mill consumes more coal than iron, and I'm also consuming coal on these 2 buildings as well, so I wasn't sure if I would need more coal, so I've got it. I got a little bit of insurance just in case, but of course I would need more workers, so I would have to expand the residential area because currently I am hauling off. I have room in these trains. These trains can still carry. Sound effect is. I should just turn that down. There we go. So these trains currently have room for more people, so I could look at getting more housing in this area. I think I might need to just like expand a residential area and then have the trains pick people up at one, pick people up at the other, and then haul them off here. Yeah, my coal mine is also just sitting at not quite full capacity either, but it is using up quite a bit. I do have room to establish a 2nd processing plant to get more coal produced, and then I am also exporting some of my surplus coal, and so this is currently full, and this is just sitting right about almost full. I have a train that comes by, and he picks up coal, sells it, picks up iron, sells it, and he does that on loop. I used to have, do I have 2 trains? Yeah, I do have 2 trains doing that. So this guy here is just dumping off a load of coal, and he is selling that to the Western countries, so I'm getting dollars for that. Figured I needed a little bit of an export to make some dollars. So eventually I might stop these guys from doing their export. Especially when I get more workers, I can get this built, which will consume iron and produce mechanical components. And that way I will have something worth even more than just raw steel. But currently I need the workers. So there's this constant balancing act as you grow and try to figure out how to plan things out and how to develop things. Eventually there will be things like, plastic industry. Some mechanical ones, there's electronics and things like that. So with a plastics industry, I'm going to need oil and chemicals. I don't have the chemical plant unlocked yet. That's in here. I need to do a research for that. And I'm also thinking about whether or not I would want to set up a big fuel refinery, because I have only a small one. That is over here. Got a mod for a small one. That one is just barely not able to keep up with the fuel production here, but or the oil production, but he's able to produce bitumen, which then combines with gravel to make asphalt. And I'm doing some of this because I wanted to try out manual constructing things, because when you build something, the game can auto purchase all of the resources and the labor costs, right? So I can just click that and say, you know, fund it with ruples, and it'll build. But right now I have it set so that construction offices are actually building it. So what'll happen is, you can see it's delivered some workers, and it'll also deliver resources to these. So it has 9.6 bricks on site, and it wants steel and boards and workers. So I have vehicles that are set to deliver that. So that's just the distribution office. There's I have a construction office somewhere, but these guys here are bringing in the resources that I don't make in this area, so that I can use for buildings, and then they will deliver that to the work site, and then that will eventually build, and it won't cost me very much money. It'll cost me a little bit because I have to buy these. This is a brick factory, which means that I can use some of this. I can also look at, I've been thinking about getting this to also add more coal, like get a coal line running out so that I can run a second heating plant. I definitely need a second one if I were to expand anything in this for more people. I don't really think I need to expand this very much. This one does have room for some extra houses. There's a bit of overlap between my different heating places. So this one, I could build some extra houses in this area and then get some more population, some more workers. So eventually you can get into some other crazy stuff like building your own boats, building your own trains, building your own vehicles, and all the different parts for that. Because your people can get their own vehicles assigned to them. This is a Soviet style game, so people don't own stuff, so they get assigned a vehicle at a car dealership, and then they can drive themselves to work instead of walking or finding a bus. There's also things with nuclear reactors where you get uranium and you can process it, and a bunch of different things like that. So that'll be it for this video. Take care.